How you doing? My name is Tom Wayland. Welcome to Animate Miami. And yay! And we're here to talk about Pokémon. Like I said, that's me. My name is Tom. I've been directing Pokémon. I'm in my 8th season. I guess it's been about 7 years. We're on season 18 now, by the way. Yeah. Yay! It'll be airing tomorrow morning, season 17, episode, 43 or 44? Something like that. I believe Ash is having a gym battle. And I've also voiced lots and lots and lots of characters over the years, and I have voiced more Pokemon creatures than anyone else on the planet ever. So that's me, and that's what I do. Well, thank you.
Maybe like a certificate or like a badge.
You won't need to because I just keep saying it.
Okay, perfect.
So, and over here we have Miss Carrie Keranen.
Yes, yay! I think they applauded louder for me, just for the record.
Well, whatever. You're wearing a skirt with your legs facing out. I mean, good morning.
Yeah.
Who are you? What do you do?
I thought I didn't know that I was hi. So I'm Carrie, and I think the biggest role was in the movie Pokémon 7, movie 7?
12.
Movie 12.
Arceus and the Jewel of Life.
Arceus and the Jewel of Life. But throughout the years, I've done a bunch of individual characters through the season, and I worked on the show both pre-Tom Wayland and post-Tom Wayland.
The dark years.
The dark years and the Tom Wayland years. Tom Wayland years are better, for sure. Way better. I mean, just being in session with him is just, it's just fun. He's awesome to direct. Because he has this wonderful mix of actually giving you useful notes to get the job done, and then when you're ahead, he'll be like, "So what's going on with your dating life?" And then so you have it's this wonderful mix of personal and professional, and it's beautiful.
Great. And over here, this is her first convention appearance ever. It's Miss Alyson Leigh Rosenfeld.
Hi guys. Thanks for that intro. Yes, I'm Alyson Leigh Rosenfeld, and I am currently the voice of Bonnie on Pokémon, and previously I was Nurse Joy. And I've also been various creatures. Right now I'm Bunnelby. Before that I was Audino and Tynamo and Cubchoo and yeah, lots of squeaky
You never
creatures.
let me do a creature, Tom.
You don't?
Never. In all the years, I've never got to do a creature.
Just moved back to New York. She used to live in New York and then moved to L.A. So ain't no Pokemons in L.A. I'm just saying.
I feel like whenever there was when you see the script, whenever there was a Pokemon nearby, I'd be like, "Oh, can I play?" And I would make up my own ideas of what I thought they should be, and
nice.
I never booked one.
Well, why don't we do a Pokemon audition right now? If Kim Kardashian's butt was a Pokemon, what would it sound like? That's pretty good. All right. You're hired. So anyway, yeah, children's programming. So we've been working on the show collectively for a very long time. We've done a lot of things. Last Saturday, the latest movie aired on Cartoon Network, Diancie and the Cocoon of Destruction. It's movie number 17, as there is a movie that goes with every season. And season 17 is on TV, about wrapping up. Season 18 will be starting soon.
How many episodes a season does Pokemon do?
Pokemon does approximately, I don't know, say about 50 episodes a season.
A season?
Yeah, it never stops.
That's
Sometimes
insane.
it's 52. And here's the thing for you guys, if you don't know, in Japan, they don't have seasons of Pokemon. It just kind of runs. And it's by the generation or the product line, to put it as bluntly as possible. When a new set of Pokemon is released, let's say going back a couple of sets like Diamond and Pearl, they don't, which in America was seasons 10, 11, 12, 13. In Japan, they don't have seasons. It's just they throw a dart at a board. It seems like they're 191 episodes of Diamond and Pearl. There you go. So it just sort of runs until it stops, and then you move on to the next thing.
So they do it in eras.
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting indeed.
Interesting indeed.
So who has questions for us? Come ask us things. We will answer all the secret questions that you may have. Anybody? Yeah, you.
Okay. Hello. I was wondering, what is I guess you're the director, so I guess that that works. But what is it like voicing for just the Pokemon who don't really have lines? Do you get a script at all? If there is a script, what does it say? Does it just have time slots? Oh, I guess yeah, you can.
Yeah, I'll answer that one. So, as I'm sure you know, most of the creatures just end up saying variations of their name. So it ends up being a matter of, what is the creature doing in that moment? What are they feeling? Are they battling? Are they trying to communicate something to their trainer? But it's always just with their name. So, yeah, it's in the script that, they do something, but it doesn't spell out for you like you say cub choo choo or whatever. You can, it's for you to decide what variation of the name you want
you'll
to
look
use.
at the cue, you'll see what's happening, and then more or less improv something to make it fit. Are any of you guys acting students? Anybody yeah?
Yay.
So it's a little bit like if you do Meisner technique stuff, where you sit and you repeat like a phrase over and over again, where it sort of loses its meaning, or you want to be able to use any words to convey any emotion. In a weird way, it's like that because Pikachu, who's sitting in the front row here, like all Pikachu says is Pikachu or Pikachu. Those, those three syllables, and you can mix it up. But to do it right, you're not just saying a name, and that's a thing that, especially in the time that I've been doing the show, that I've really tried to make that, to improve that as much as possible, where it doesn't come across just as a person like saying a name, where it comes across more like dialogue. You know what I mean? When the creature says something, you can tell, well, like when you listen to Pikachu, it's performed fantastically by Ikue Otani. Every time she says something, you can tell what she means. You could tell how she feels. You could tell, almost translate it in your head. And that's the way you want to do it. It's not just you shouting a name. These are not just animals. They're characters. They have emotions.
But I feel like that's an excellent point for just voiceover in general. Like there's this, like, some people feel like it's just like coming in and just like saying the words or whatever, but there's this idea of like you have to be inside all of the emotion and the physicality and like making all that kind of come through, even when it's not just the name. Even when you have like lines of dialogue, you still have to like use all of that. So it sounds like there it's like the purest form of like voice acting.
Yeah, sure. All right. You got another question?
Yeah.
Somebody else? Yeah, Pikachu? Wait, yeah, go for it. Wow, look at your hair. Everybody look at her hair.
Oh my God.
Appreciate that.
Oh my God.
I was just gonna say, I love the hair.
Thank you. I love yours. That's really cool.
Thank you. My question was actually, what is the most memorable moment when you've been filming? If there's something that just hilarious happened in
We're
the booth?
recording. I'm
Yes,
assuming you mean this.
yeah,
right?
when recording. Yeah.
So
Sorry.
a memorable moment while recording. You guys?
I do. I feel like I don't know if it wasn't a hilarious moment, but I do remember it was early on, and it was like maybe my second or third character I ever did, and she was just like a guest star, and she was like really really nice and sweet the whole story, and then at the very very end turned out to be the villain, like pulled off a mask and was like totally evil, and I don't really get to play a lot of villains. Until recently, and that's not up anymore. But my current character who was up there a minute ago. So it was like awesome for me to have, and I only had like 3 or 4 lines before she was like, and like took off, whatever. And I remember the director at that time being like, "Oh, you do evil well." And I was like, "Yes."
Darren?
Yes, I do. Yeah,
Darren?
it's Darren. I was like, yeah, you should totally bring me in for bad girls. But I don't think I ever went in for a bad girl for Pokemon. But he did cast me as a bad girl in something else. But that was my the most fun for me, because you don't know when you go in necessarily, like you haven't seen the script, you don't know what's going to happen. So it was just as much a surprise to me as it was to well, he wasn't surprised, he knew the script, but I didn't know that she was evil. Like I'm playing the whole time thinking she's this one thing, and so when it happened, it was like, oh my God. And I was like, yeah, But
Nice.
no more bad girls for another 10 years.
I think for me, it's the Tom Wayland B-roll, as I like to call it, where a lot of times, as you all know, the show is very sweet and very family-friendly. But, there are times where Tom will find a certain flap and think it'll be really funny to just have a B-roll of, us saying something that our character would never say, extremely inappropriate. And I want to see that cut together someday. I want to see like.
I have like tons of outtakes from this show, most of which none of you can ever see. But maybe at my panel tomorrow night, I'll bust out some of the less awful ones. Yeah. But yeah, well, I mean, you also being someone who is always good with a quick outtake now and again, because I have one from you doing the movie, movie number 12, and I have one that you did recently, and we're in a renaissance of outtakes again. I've sort of encouraged the crew to kind of start, you know, because I mean we've got a really good groove going in there, and for the most part, Pokemon is very upbeat and it's fun. I mean, there's like, you know, your moments where there's tension and this and that, but you know, it's not like depressing or anything like that. So we can kind of keep the fun groove going on, and I always tell people, I'm like, if you just go ahead, feel free. I mean, because if I don't want you to, I'll, you know, I'm like, no, we're behind, we gotta move. But otherwise, it's like, let's have a good time. For me, I think one of the more memorable things, I don't know, it's weird, like working with younger actors and people that are now younger than you, because I'm like,
old now.
I know. I brought Alyson in, like, it was one of your first big jobs, right? And then working with other people who are like, I don't know, they feel like children to me, but people who are like college aged, who this show has existed their whole life, because Pokemon is like about 18 years old. And then even now, you know, that I've been working on the show for so long that now I get actors coming in who are like, oh, I've grown up listening to you. And it's weird, but it's fun, you know? So, I mean, yeah, and I mean, besides that, it's just the other, like a really weird thing when I first was directing in season 11, there's an episode where Pikachu gets the shit knocked out of him so bad by a Raichu, he gets taken to the hospital, and they have to defibrillator him. They break out the shock paddles. Now, of course, Pikachu being an electric type, as you are, you know, that's they Pikachu, in addition to like, you know, food and water and air, needs electricity. But there's little Pikachu, like, you know, lying there, and they're like, clear! You know, and he's like, and I was like, oh! It was horrifying. But, you know, and especially because it's played like Nurse Joy is like dead serious, you know, and she's like, you know, everybody get back. And she's rubbing the paddles together, and I was like, what's going on? So that was kind of a weird thing to be dropped into the show, because that was something that honestly, like, you didn't see before. The show has changed over the years, where it's gotten a little more action oriented than it was in some of the past seasons. So you got things like that you didn't used to get, and that was like, that really caught me by surprise. So There you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Somebody's got some questions for us. Somebody does. Yeah.
Well, I will.
Yeah,
but I have my
sure.
own, so I'll use it. So I'm curious, how did you each get your start in voice acting? How did it happen? You just walked down the street and someone was like, oh, I like your voice, and took you to a studio, or how exactly did that happen?
Don't ever follow anyone to a studio off the street.
No, I wouldn't.
If that ever happens to you, don't go, FYI.
I would never buy it. My voice is really weird. But go ahead. Where did you get your start?
Well, he's absent currently, but Michael Sinter-Nicholas, actually. I was doing a theater show and found out that this dude was casting for a new Japanese cartoon, and I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. And so I called him up, and I went in, and he had just moved his studio, unfortunately because of 9/11, and he didn't have it set up, so I auditioned like under a sound blanket at a microphone, and they faxed over the script, but it didn't come through, so I had one line.
What
to
show
audition with.
was it?
Berserk.
Oh, cool.
Berserk, yeah.
I just have to point out that you're telling me not to go to anybody's studio, but you went under some blanket. I just have to point that out.
Well, he didn't get me off the street.
Well,
he wasn't
when
like,
you
you
guys-
got a great voice, follow me.
But when you guys
But
meet
I
Michael,
did.
he is very disarming.
He's
a
incredibly
charming
disarming,
dude, yeah.
and he's very charming, and
Yeah.
I would follow him under a sound blanket. Wow. Anyway, So I auditioned for that, and I got a call about a week later saying, hey, they loved you, but they only have one line to go off of. So I'm wondering if you want to come in, record for 2 hours. We'll submit it to them, and if they like you, then I'll pay you and you have the job. And if not, you can consider it the longest callback of your whole life. And I was like, that sounds cool to me, like, because I thought, like, at least it'd be a great experience to, like, be in the booth and, like, figure out the technical stuff and the whatever. And oh my God, I forgot the worst recording with you once, the worst.
Okay.
So I thought, I was like, oh, this will be beneficial regardless. Like, I feel like I'll learn a lot. So I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And then I ended up, they liked me and they kept me, and then I recorded that. But that's sort of how I got started.
Yeah.
I went to NYU Tisch, and my senior year, I studied at Stone Street, which is the film and TV studio, and I took a voiceover class. And my teacher was super encouraging, was like, you really should do this thing, you should record a demo, you should just start trying to do it. So I did, and one of the first things I booked was an audiobook series in Princeton, New Jersey, and Tom happened to be one of the other actors doing it.
It was like an ESL, like an
Yeah, like an
educational...
animated ESL educational
Yeah.
thing. And Tom happened to also be an actor in it, and he said, hey, we're casting this part tomorrow. Can you come read for it? And I said, yeah. And I came in, and...
Sounds exactly like Tom.
Thank you. Yeah, years of practice. And I auditioned, and I got it, and I've been working with him ever since.
Yeah, that I was telling you this last night when I was telling you about her. There was an actor that I had been working with for a while, a girl named Heather, who's on that TV show. No. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, she's on a TV show, and she does movies, and she's awesome. She moved to LA, and which sucked for me. It was great for her because now she's doing great, but she was somebody I used to use all the time, and I was like, oh man, what am I gonna do? She's gone, and we're sitting at this thing in Princeton. There's like 4 of us, I think, right? And reading the parts, and I'm sitting there as I'm listening to you. I'm like, God, she sounds like somebody. I could not place who it was, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, she sounds like Heather. I was like, oh my God, perfect. So that's why I was like, you gotta come in, because I lost one of you, now I need one of you. And yeah, and we've worked together lots, and now you're in all sorts of other things. You're making TV commercials and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, I went to NYU also, and I have a degree in acting and all that, but when I was a kid, I used to make recordings. Me and my friend, we had a radio station, and we would record ourselves and I would play all these weird DJs, and we would have people call in, and we would do commercials and stuff. And I never really looked at that as like doing voiceover stuff. We just goofed around. And then, years later, that became my job. Because when I went to NYU, and, acting school, as you can attest to this, and maybe you can too. I'm not sure if you have an acting school background, but everybody's insane. People are crazy,
Yes.
and they use acting class as therapy. So I got really sick of those people, and I ended up, I was playing in bands at the time, and that really became my focus because I was like, I'm sick of the actors. I'm going to go be a rock star now. And I was playing, and had some degree of success with that. Like, that was my job for a little while, was just playing with these two. One band that I played drums for, we were like a metal band, we sounded like Tool, and another band that I sang for, and we were like 70s Aerosmith. And after a couple of years, though, we couldn't get along with each other anymore, and the band split up. But I had learned all this recording technology and stuff. So in a roundabout way, that ended up leading me to getting a job in the anime industry for this company called Central Park Media. And I was a producer. And then I started directing shows for them. And then I'd made these relationships with all the studios in New York City. So at one point, I decided to kind of go off on my own to start my own company. And at that point, I had made all these great relationships with studios. So I was like, hey, audition me when you have things coming up, because it was a conflict of interest when I worked for Central Park Media. But as a freelancer, it wasn't. So I started getting auditions and booking parts, and 4Kids snatched me up immediately. And 4Kids was a studio that used to record Pokémon and, used to do Yu-Gi-Oh! and Sonic and a whole bunch of other stuff. And they immediately recruited me, and I started directing for them and ended up in their shows, and I've just been doing it ever since. So all in all, I've been working on anime and animation and video games for like almost 15 years. So there you go, Nurse Joy.
Impressive.
Follow up though. You said you had a radio station when you were
No.
a kid?
Me and my friend made like a fake radio show and
Oh,
on
okay.
cassettes.
Because I thought your parents just had the radio station.
Back
They just gave you
in
the
no,
airwaves.
in the early 1980s, there were these little things called cassettes that had magnetic tape in them on little spools. They're back in vogue now, thanks to Star-Lord. But it was like Awesome Mix Volume 1, except it was me like being a radio DJ and doing... I'd say about 70% of the jokes were about farts.
That seems about right.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
So... Do what? Do
A fart
fart
joke?
or a fart joke? Oh no, I honestly no.
Don't-
like
don't fart, don't fart.
We used to have like we do a commercial for like baked beans or something, and I remember because there's like B&M baked beans, so we had our baked beans were B&F baked beans because it was like big fart is what it stood for, and then there was like my friend would sing parody songs, so there was this song that was popular on the radio in the early 80s called Some Like It Hot, and he made it Some Like to Fart. And, I still have these things. This guy, I think, is like some tech millionaire now, and he lives out in Silicon Valley. I spoke to him 2 years ago. He called me randomly out of the blue, but he had founded all these tech companies and stuff. I mean, I hadn't talked to him in 25 years. But yeah,
So do you use them as like blackmail?
I-
Like, I
I'm-
still have those tapes.
I'm sure he'd be extremely proud of it. It was, yeah. So he was funny. That was his dream. He said he was going to be a fartologist. So, there you go. Yep. Pokemon.
Any more questions? If anybody has a question, you can.
Who's got a question? Somebody ask us about Pokemon. Somebody.
Okay, well, I will.
Yeah.
You guys each did several different characters in Pokemon, right? Who did you have the most personal connection to? And it's okay if it's a character, because not a character, a creature. Yeah. Out of curiosity, who's your most personally connected character?
Anybody? You?
I mean, I have to say Bonnie because she's who I'm playing right now, and she's just so fun and spunky and out of her mind, which all describe me. Yeah, she's just super fun. So I would say Bonnie.
How about you?
I've always been wildly in love with Pikachu. I just can't control. I just love him. He's so cute, and I love that he's electric, and he's such a pal, and I just love I just love him.
You weren't Pikachu though, were you?
No, you said.
But I meant character that
We
you were.
played. Oh, I thought you said a
that
character that
played.
we loved.
No.
I was like, I
That's
love
coming next, so
Pikachu.
don't jump ahead of me.
I jumped ahead. I jumped. I don't know that I have a character specifically on Pokemon that I was like.
Well, except your girl who turned out to be a bad guy. Was
I
kinda
do.
cool.
I do sort of. That I feel like I already told that story. Yeah. I feel like that was the one that I was the most. That was the most excited about playing. But all the other ones were sort of like. They're just nice. I don't know. They were just nice, adventure-y sort of. I don't know. I feel like Pokemon specifically, aside from the 4 lines I had where I was a bad girl, I was a villain. Were very much I got cast in those roles because they're very much just straight up in my wheelhouse. They're just the kinds of characters I play all the time, which make them connected to me, but not in a way that's oh my gosh. That was such an experience because it was so different. You know what I mean? They were sort of I came in and I played them and I knew I understood them right away and I knew who they were and they have a lot of heart and they really care. They usually had some real strong purpose or vision that they were no, we have to do this, guys, and rally the troops, kind of and that's those peppy chicks are really just they're
Right in your
they're
wheelhouse.
they're just I have a lot of them. So.
Mr. Wayland?
I think my favorite thing that I played was Arceus, who was in the movie that you were the female lead in, and Arceus is a Pokemon creature who is this is not how he's exactly described, but sort of he's like Pokemon God. He's like the Pokemon Lord of Creation, at least in whatever sort of weird
Typecasting.
right?
Typecasting.
And it's whatever little Pokemon religion they have in the Sinnoh region, especially, you know. And that's playing him was great because I can hold that over everyone's head that I was, you know, Poke Jesus. Although on Twitter this week, me and some other people had a debate that Wobbuffet is Poke Jesus because his battle style is turn the other cheek. So but Arceus was my favorite. And I'll tell you guys this story because it is sort of interesting with the casting with that. I worked on a movie with a guy named Vincent D'Onofrio. Does anybody know who Vincent D'Onofrio is?
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, Private Pile and, you know, he was in Men in Black and The
Law and
Cell.
Order.
Yep, all this stuff. And he's going to be the Kingpin in the Daredevil thing coming up. So I did a movie with him. And he was really cool. And, you know, and we, like, you know, hit it off and we're working together. And, you know, and we have Pokemon stuff all over the studio. So he was like, so this is what you do when you're, you know, not there. I'm like, yeah, you know, I work on cartoons all the time. He's like, well, I want to be in a cartoon, man. I want to be in a cartoon. I'm like, okay. He's like, anything weird, anything weird. I'm like, anything weird. Sure, okay. And so we start casting, you know, we're going to start casting for the Pokemon movie. And Arceus, the Pokemon God, and I'm sort of pitched this to the Pokemon people because in Japan, their guest stars are often like TV and film actor people who are otherwise famous. So I'm like, well, there's this guy, and he'd be interested in doing this thing, you know, because I'm like, because Vincent, like, well, what's the part like? I'm like, it's like a flying space horse thing. And he's like, perfect. So, you know, he was all psyched to do it, but I'm like, there's all this union and non-union stuff that you go on. So I'm like, you know, it's a non-union gig though, and you know, if you did it, they'd want to use your name and he's like, I don't care. He's like, they could find me, I don't care, whatever. Because he's a kind of a maverick. He sort of just does his own thing, and so we have him booked to do it. We're like, okay, great, he's gonna do it. And 2 days before we were gonna record, his lawyer calls us and freaks out. And is like, you know, and then he called back. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do it. You know. So then we had to cast for it. And the part was in Japan, played by a guy who's an older actor in upper 50s or maybe 60s, who was known for playing women, like on camera, sort of in a drag thing, but that's like a thing in Japan. You know, there's a certain genre for that, and that's what this person was known for. Because the Arceus character was a little more feminine in an old woman sort of way when it was peaceful, and then turned into like Cobra Commander when it was angry. And we cast all these, you know, we did all these castings, and at first the Pokemon company they're like, well, let's get like Darth Vader, deep voiced, you know, voice of God, big bottom end. I can't do that shit, but, you know. And the Japanese were like, no. They're like, this is what our guy is like. So I hadn't auditioned myself because I was like, I'm not right for this part. But then at that point, I'm like, well, screw it, let me do it. So I auditioned, and they're like, that guy is perfect. So I sound like a 60-year-old Japanese drag queen, apparently.
It's probably the hair.
It might be. Somehow that made it into the recording.
Yeah, they're like, we can feel his hair. We can feel the long hair, the flowing
I tell you,
hair.
I got cast once for a VO gig because of my hair. Doing audiobooks, I narrated the audiobook for Dave Mustaine. Anybody know who that is? So autobiography of Dave Mustaine, who is the lead singer, lead guitar player, founder of the band Megadeth, and he was one of the founders of Metallica. So they submitted me, and he saw what I looked like. He looked up a picture of me, and he was like, cast that dude. So, because he gets me. So
he gets me.
Yep. All right. So other questions? Anybody? Come on now.
Well, okay. So she already answered it. But what's your favorite Pokemon? You know, in general.
Pikachu.
Yeah, Pikachu's fantastic. I mean, Pikachu from more of a nerdy work perspective, like the way that woman performs Pikachu is perfect. It's brilliant, and I want. You know, like, and that's the thing I'll tell people, I probably told this to you, I'm like, listen to the way she does Pikachu and bring that into the way you do yours. But my other favorite, because when Pokemon first started, and I think it was just sort of post-college for me, and it was the original 151, and all of us slacker kids were like, look at these things. You know, Psyduck. Psyduck I thought was frickin' hilarious. I remember who was my girlfriend and is now my wife, when the Mew character came out, she thought that was the cutest thing ever, but Psyduck, I love that thing. I thought it was hilarious. And it's even funnier do you know who used to play it? Michael Hegney was Psyduck. Which to me made it even funnier when I found out that that's who it was. It was basically this bald producer guy who was like that all the time. So that's who played it originally. So yeah, that's my favorite.
Once again, typecasting.
I'm partial to my character, so I'm gonna just say another one. I loved Audino. He's just big and pink and friendly and fluffy, and you just want to cuddle him. I just wish there was like a life-size one that I could actually just spoon.
Like Baymax.
Yeah. I would spoon Audino if I could.
There you go. There's a Mega Audino coming in the new game.
I will spoon it.
I will spoon it. You heard it here first. Ladies and gentlemen, she's going to spoon it.
All right. So going off of that, what was the hardest Pokemon for you to like? Was there one that you just had to really focus to getting character for?
Well, I never played a Pokemon, so I guess I can't answer this question.
Okay,
Tom.
a character then.
What character then?
Again, on this particular series, like I never got cast out of my like type, so they were all just basically some version of my natural voice. So they were all pretty easy, to be honest.
I just did one that was pretty challenging. It was some like Poke Stars manager. And I was trying to be very...
Oh, Diantha's manager.
Yeah,
chick.
because Bonnie was also in the episode, and Bunnelby, one of my creatures, was also in the episode. So I didn't want it to be too high-pitched, I didn't want it to be too close to Bonnie, but I didn't want it to be too scratchy, to be too close to Bunnelby. So trying to find a middle ground vocally, but then also she was kind of a bitch. So to be kind of a bitch, but not super yeah, that was a challenge.
Yeah, the screaming creatures are the hardest, just because... You know, like things like Machoke and Machamp and stuff, because I do all of those, and because it just, you know, you're choke, 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 and then jab, 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 you know. And if you do that for 2 hours, you're screwed. Like, it shreds your throat for the rest of the day, you know.
So you like always book yourself at the end of the day? You're like, I'm recording that from 5 to 7.
Well, that's
so I can talk in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the benefit that I have, though, of being the guy who makes the schedule, is I won't even really book myself. It's like over the course of the week, I will do it. So one day I might do a dozen cues one day, and then the next day I'll do 5 more, and then I'll do 20 the day after that.
So you can like spread it all out.
Yeah.
So you never tear yourself up.
If it's a tough one like that, I will often do it that way. So yeah.
The conveniences of being the boss, I guess.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just happened to walk in while you guys were questions, and I don't know if you have been answered this question. Between Nurse Joy and Bonnie, do you have like do you like doing both of them, or do you have a preference? Do you like one or the other, or?
If one of them had to die.
Well, I'm just saying, do you like either
Who
like
would you
Bonnie?
kill?
Do you like doing Bonnie and Nurse Joy, or do you just like doing
Well,
Bonnie?
I'm not Nurse Joy anymore. So that's part of it, but I think Bonnie is a little more fun. Just, you know, Nurse Joy for me, when I was her, she never really left the Pokemon Center very much. She was always great and she always helped, but Bonnie gets to go on the adventure.
The best episode for you as Nurse Joy was the what the hell is the name of it? The Zoroark shape-shifting one.
Oh, yeah. That was a fun one. That was. But Bonnie gets to go on the adventure, and Bonnie, like we were saying before, proposes for her brother all the time and just does crazy, zany stuff. So I'd probably say Bonnie, but I love them both.
Yeah, that's something that I like in the Pokemon, that Bonnie is always proposing for her brother.
Yeah.
Sort of like how Brock is always after Nurse Joy or Officer Jenny or some pretty girl throughout the series. So I was just wondering, you know, between the two.
Well, I think the inspiration behind it's a little bit different because for her, she's like, I'm not going to be around to take care of you all the time. So, you know,
Yeah.
hey, look, it's Serena.
So it's less her own personal desire and more like to relieve the burden.
Well, yeah, because she's like the little sister of him, but she's
the caretaker.
she's sort of the caretaker
Yeah.
in some ways, yeah. So she's always like, because what she says is not, "Will you marry my brother?" What she
Will
say?
you please take care of my brother? Is what she asked.
Yeah. And then the girls are always,
No one's gonna say yes to that.
Freaked out.
yeah.
Yeah, no one's gonna say yes to
Why
that.
is this 6-year-old girl or however old she is proposing?
That's right.
to me?
Age in Pokemon, though, is...
I mean, in real life, that's
Meaningless.
creepy. By the way,
Yeah.
like it's super creepy.
But it's
You-
cute when a
you-
6-year-old does
You
it.
try not to think about stuff like that, because again, it's like the age of the characters is sort of fluid. I mean, you have kids and you have adults, but
That actually brings up a question
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you. Because there's a lot, that dispensation of age, you've got a 10-year-old proposing, or 12-year-old proposing for her 10-year-old brother. There's a lot of that in Pokemon where, Brock is proposing to everybody and making all these advances. And there's always, even though they're like 10, there's always this sort of sexual tension between Misty and Ash. That was my era, by the way. But did you ever notice that or see that or maybe have an issue with anything like that? When you were working
so
with
in the episodes that just aired, they were in summer camp, and they introduced these new guest characters who are going to be like recurring friends, and it's Tierno, Trevor, and Shauna. Tierno is huge, okay? Now he's played, personality-wise, he definitely comes across more like a kid. Todd Habercorn plays him, and I like working with Todd. He's a lot of fun. But the guy is enormous, and he has the hots for Serena, who's like 10. And the thing is, he's probably supposed to be around the same age as her, But visually, it's weird. You know what I mean? But he's probably supposed to be around the same age. He's just really, really large. So he, at first glance, seems like, wow, this big adult guy is going all with the bang, heart eyes, and like, oh, look at her, about Serena. So that's a little strange. But again, I believe that they're all supposed to be around the same age. And the other thing with Brock is like, Brock was always considered to be older, but and this is just a guess. There's no definitive age, but I would say maybe he was 13 or 14 or something. But the thing is that none of these adult women would ever take him seriously. They were always, or just would be like, ew, and walk away, So it never got that creepy. It was always done completely comedically.
Any more questions?
Anybody
Audience
else?
at large? Back to me?
Yeah?
It's like they're afraid to come into the room. They all want to sit as close to the door as
close.
Yeah.
possible.
So we talked previously about how you got into it, but I am curious about your schooling. I know you said Tisch, and were you at Tisch as well?
Yeah.
University of Michigan, Ann Arbor.
And all acting?
Yes.
No, my degree was in linguistics.
Very
Get
cool.
out of here.
Yeah, I had a
Cool.
liberal arts degree in linguistics.
Okay.
That's actually really very cool.
Yeah, I specialized in teaching and learning methodologies.
Now, did you get into doing that ever professionally?
Honestly, no. Right after I went to Europe and I backpacked for a while, and then I moved to New York, and I pretty much immediately started pursuing acting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, wise choice.
Thank you.
But I mean, is the stuff that you learned in college, do you find that helps you, or did that ever,
I think that the thing that I was always really attracted to and why linguistics has it's a lot about like logic and language. So it's sort of like this really great blend of like communication and like social behavior plus like just brain science. And I think that the thing that I always, and even now, like when you're reading a script or when you're looking at something, you're like, how is this person talking? Like, what is their language? What are they using? How do they express themselves? So I feel like there's something for me that's always been about like the language, the word choice, like was always kind of gave me a lot of a sense of who that person was, how they expressed themselves. And also when I was looking at acquisition methodologies, we studied a lot about like how it happens in real life and how back when, like pigeon languages or whatever, when tribes would get sort of like separated through the continent because they would get they would get sort of taken and they'd escape, but then there'd be a community of people who didn't all have the same language, and they would sort of be struggling. But then when the children were born, they automatically gave language and the grammar and syntax to a language. So they just created new languages. And so I was always just fascinated at the way that, and the way that they sort of like politically work and whatnot. So I feel like how someone talks is very important to me, and like what they say. And I'm really good at memorizing things, and like it bothers me if I can't remember the exact word that they used. So I feel like it sort of really it influenced a lot of my like script analysis in stuff. Mostly I just have always loved languages.
It's really funny that you said you never got to play a Pokemon when you have this intense ability to communicate so much. I think.
Yeah, Tom, right? It's crazy, huh, Tom? It's
I
nuts.
didn't- I
It's
didn't
insane,
know.
Tom.
I'm right there
I
with
didn't
you.
know.
Oh, I've never
Had I
played
known.
one.
I'm
Had I
right there
known.
with you. Right
Had
there
you
with you.
worn your, University of Michigan Ann Arbor linguistics department sweatshirt to a
Would have made a
session?
difference.
It would have clued you in. Oh, if only I had bought that sweatshirt when I was there.
Any more questions from the audience?
Oh, yeah.
No? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Steve from the photography crew. So my full-time job is actually in healthcare. So in the cysto room, we have a laser we use. And when it loses power or we shut it off, it sounds like Pikachu going, uh-oh, uh-oh.
Really? Although it would be Pikachu saying Pika, because neither
Yeah.
or O is part of its.
But my
Pikachu.
point being, much like the Star Trek people
Yeah.
hear about all this stuff that's designed by their fans.
Right.
I'm thinking maybe this was designed by one of your fans.
There you go. Who knows? Is it a Japanese machine?
I'm not sure.
Hey.
It's definitely Asian, but as
Okay.
to where it comes from, I don't know.
Interesting.
They do make things in America, and there are American fans.
Well, I will tell you this: if that is actually the case, one of Pokemon's lawyers will magically appear next to it, and so bad things will happen.
No questions?
Anybody?
Leaving it on me again?
Yeah.
Now, since I've already asked you about, with your character, have the two of you appeared in Pokemon or done voices for characters anywhere in the Pokemon series?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about today. Yeah, I've voiced more creatures than anybody ever, I think, and I've been a lot of humans too. And Carrie has
You
also
do say that
been,
a lot.
I get asked, and Carrie, you've been a wide variety.
Yeah, I've been several guest stars throughout the series, and then I did
Arceus.
Arceus and the Jewel of Life. I was in the movie.
Okay. So you haven't done like characters that stayed with Ash in the group or anything like that for the two
No,
of you?
for me, I've done like guest stars, like the people that they show up.
I have been their Pokemon, so like.
I'm the groupie.
Yeah, she's the Bonnie, but I've been like, Pokemon that belonged to Ash and his friends,
okay.
yeah, so. So
what
there you
about
go.
you? Have you done voices for any of the Pokemon with Ash and his friends or anything like that?
No, I haven't, Tom.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I was actually earlier before you got here. I was making a big deal of the fact that in all my years of working with Tom, I never got to play a Pokemon ever in all the time that I've known him. So it's it's funny that you ask again because I've been making a lot of digs about that today.
Yeah, that's why I asked, because me and my friend came in about halfway through
Yeah.
the Q&A, so that's why I wanted to ask. So.
No, but I also I was telling that I used to when on the script, if there was a Pokemon like somewhere on the script, like I would always try and do the Pokemon. I was like, oh, wouldn't I be great at that? Wouldn't I be great? Wouldn't I be great? But I guess he didn't ever take me. He didn't see my deep desire underneath all that humor, like he couldn't read into my burning need to play a Pokemon, so
If you were offered...
that never happened.
If you were offered a chance to do a voice for a Pokemon or several, would you do it?
Yeah, any of them. Any of them. I would literally do any
Let me know next
any
time you're going to be
Pokemon
back in
that
New York,
ever existed.
and we'll work something out.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so I have a question.
You guys heard that though, right? You heard his commitment to me just now. That
Yes.
if I go back to New York,
Oh, yeah.
anytime that I get to play Pokemon, everyone got that on film. Is that right?
Oh,
something
yeah,
like
it's being
that.
recorded for posterity over there, so you're good. I have a question.
We have to go 3 rounds in the ring, and if, you could,
No,
if you
see,
could
now you're
survive.
changing it. Now you're changing it. That's not
Right.
fair. You already agreed.
So, especially with you two having gone to NYU, do you guys have any experience with live theater?
Oh yeah.
Yep, and I imagine you
I
do as
don't.
well.
Yeah, I don't get to. I didn't go to NYU,
Sorry.
Oh,
so I
in-
don't get to
Well,
be asked
There
that
ain't no
question.
legitimate theater in Michigan.
Sorry, I'm an East Coast girl.
I lived in New York for 10 years.
Yeah, but
and
you
I've
live in
lived
LA
in LA for
now.
5
It's-
now. I've
it's
done.
done now.
not- yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
All right. So yeah. I mean, I used to, I mean, that's when you go to school for acting in New York, very often it is with the idea that you want to be on stage because that is the place to be for theater. Yes, they have theater nationally all over the place, but that is the pinnacle of theater. Just like with film and TV, there is work in New York, but there's much more work in LA. But, so that was certainly a thing that, I wanted to do, and then that I did. I mean, I was doing some theater and stuff, but like I said, I kind of got sick of everybody I went to school with and got into, playing music and having some success there, so I sort of went off that way. I kept doing theater. I haven't done any, like a full-on show for about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. Last
Yeah, but
thing
you
I
also
did,
have kids, and it's such a time commitment.
Yeah, it is.
And it's evenings and weekends and stuff, so it's hard. What
Yeah.
I mean, that makes it hard.
And it is like, and to sort of just put it bluntly, it is also kind of the least bang for your buck, where the amount of hours that they can get you versus what you get paid, it's, unless you're on Broadway, if you have a Broadway contract, you're doing great. But again, if you have a Broadway
Even
contract,
still.
how long are you going to be there? 6 months, a year? I had an opportunity at one point that people were like, interested in me. Not that I wasn't being like offered a role, but they want, I was asked to audition, being considered for something in Rock of Ages, and but I can't walk away from what I've got going on now, because that would be super fun, and that show is definitely, I'm a good fit for it.
Oh, yeah.
But what am I gonna be in it for 6 months? Am I gonna be in it for a year? And then what? They're not gonna hold my other work for me, So it's just not worth it. Nice to be even part of a conversation for something like that, so I took that as a great compliment, but that's a thing that I can't do anymore. I would love to do theater because, as Carrie was saying, I have kids. I have 3 boys who are 6, 9, and 11, and I would love to be able to do stuff on stage so they could see it and, perhaps be inspired to do the same thing. I don't know. But yeah, so my theater days, hopefully not totally behind me, but that is not a focus for me anymore. You, on the other hand.
Yeah, I do the theater thing.
I have to ask, do you sing?
I do, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm a
that's
big
obvious.
musical theater gal.
Yeah.
You're a little
And I'm a little
musical
musical theater gal who loves musical theater.
Well, it's a lot easier to make you taller than it is to make you smaller.
I know,
Trust me,
these shoes
know.
are helping. Yeah, I did it in school, and I've been doing it consistently since school, and fortunately, I am younger and childless, so I have the evenings free to be doing that. And yes, it is the least bang for your buck financially, but arguably the most fulfilling. So
Well, I also think that the thing about theater is that that's the actor's medium, and film and television is more the director and editor's medium. So I think that it's really important, especially when you're starting out, to do theater, because you have to sort of learn who you are as a performer and and also you have the audience right there. So you're testing against that immediately. You get an immediate feedback loop. And when you shoot something, I mean, even a commercial is not going to air for 4 months or whatever. And by the time it airs, you don't necessarily remember what you were trying. You don't get to see the editing room. You don't get to see how your takes when I was doing this, when I was doing that. Unless you start shooting stuff that you're then editing, when you get to be in the editing room, it's a whole different experience. You get to see, oh, this is how that played, this is how that played. Okay, this worked, this didn't work, whatever. So I think it really is important as a performer to do theater when you start out, so that you can start to learn how to play the emotions in your body. And because it's a continuous thing, you get to sort of ride that out. Because then in real life, in voice acting and in film and television and anything else, you're usually just dropping in for a moment. You know what I mean? And you have to just be present in that moment at the emotion that it is or whatever. And you have to really know how to just play that. And so I think it's really important to tune your instrument so that you can then utilize it properly in other forms. And it's really it's the one form that's on you, because once that show starts, like
No safety net.
there's no safety net. It's just you. It's the audience. And you just get to sort of
And your
find
tech
that.
crew. And your tech crew. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I think it was such a. I mean, I live in LA now, but I love
You
that
still
I was,
do theater in LA?
Oh God, yes.
Great.
Well, not right now, because the last show I did nearly killed me, and I was like, I can't right now. I can't. But I'm so grateful that I was able to discover who I was as a person and a performer in New York before I moved to LA. You know what I mean? And I think that just being able to have all those opportunities for live performance matters, and especially when it's when you see different audiences come through and they respond totally different from one show to another show. You know what I mean? And you start to okay, I'm not gonna take it personally. There's a lot of personal growth that happens in that you then can utilize later.
I got to tell you, I encourage our actors, our talent pool, to do live theater, to get involved with that, because it sharpens all of your skills.
And you're more connected, your voice to the body, all of that.
And especially something like Pokémon, which is so big and broad. People who are musical theater actors are very often the best at it. I mean, I'm not saying if you don't do
They
musical
just understand
theater, you can't be
rhythm,
good.
and they're connected to their voice and their body.
And also playing to the back of the house, because again, Pokemon, people get pissed when you're when you don't refer to it as anime, but Pokemon is a Saturday morning cartoon. Pokemon in many ways is more akin to Scooby-Doo than it is to something else, because it is something that is made for the American and the international market, and it's big and it's broad, and you have these big characters who are really dynamic and everything, and you got to have people who can hit that really hard. And musical theater actors are usually really good at that kind of thing, and that. And I have to say, Pokemon also has a lot of interesting alumni, because I went last month and saw Hedwig and the Angry Inch on Broadway, starring Andrew Rannells, who used to be in Pokemon, and playing, and he's Hedwig, and playing Yitzhak, who is the female portrayed character, who is, his partner in a way, was this girl Shannon Conley, who used to be in Pokemon, and it was fantastic.
Shannon's in Hedwig?
Shannon
Awesome.
is
Oh my God.
Lena Hall's understudy, so she went on
nice.
for a week, and I went to see her, and
Oh, great.
oh my God, she was good. I mean, wow. And they give her some legit stuff to sing, and I'd never heard her do that, and it was amazing. But, so it was cool to see these guys having started doing what we're doing and having moved on to, and Andrew, of course, is all over the TV and these stuff now. Yeah, but, having
Wait,
moved
he's
on
on
to all
Girls?
these big things.
Yeah, he's the Lena Dunham's gay ex-boyfriend is
Oh.
Andrew Rannells.
Yeah, Andrew.
He was on Pokemon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
He was Harley. He was the character. Everybody was like, "Why is Harley so gay?" And it's like it's Andrew, just being Andrew.
Reynolds.
Stop, don't judge. But it was it was interesting, because I remember when he booked his first Broadway gig, he booked Hairspray, and he retired from doing the cartoon stuff, because I'm like, I was starting Magical Do Re Mi, and I'm like, I need to cast you in this thing. And he's like, I'm not gonna do it anymore. He's like, I really want to protect the pipes and all this stuff. And I was like,
Because it does.
It can, yeah.
Recording all day can be even if it's not strenuous, if you're recording all day, by the end you're like, oh my God. I couldn't imagine singing a musical after recording all day.
Yeah,
Do you
especially
sing?
some of the stuff that we do. Yeah.
No.
All right.
That's my answer, too.
Not publicly. Not publicly. I have 2 fears in this world. Only 2.
Really? Yes. Because I'm gonna say this. You are one of, I think, the most fearless people I think I know.
I only have 2
What
in the
is-
whole
what's-
world.
What's the other one?
Bees.
Bees.
Oh, me too.
All right then.
It's irrational. It's not that,
From My Girl?
Bees are not an irrational fear.
No,
Bees
but
will hurt you.
I'm saying it's irrational because I understand how bees work, but all I can say is one flies by me and I'm like, before I can think, before I can even think, I react. So I'm
Nice.
I don't know how that got wired in there, but they're my only 2.
Okay.
Literally.
What
only
if the
2.
cure for bees was singing?
Now, I will say this. I did actually, with all of my fear of singing, I did get wrangled into doing I have done last year in LA. I've done 2 musical theater readings, stage readings, and I begged. I said yes, thinking I wasn't gonna have to sing in the first one, and then I found out I did have to sing, and I begged him to recast me. And I was like, hey, and I would check in like every 3 days to be like, so did you get someone? But he needed me for the book because the character was more important and he needed someone funny. And he's like, listen, I don't have anyone else who can do the character. I don't really care so much about the singing. It's not that, and the songs were not that complicated. And then it just kept, and he never replaced me. But I felt responsible because I had said yes. So, and because he wouldn't replace me, it was like a battle. It was like we played chicken with like until finally I was like, oh my God, I have to do this. And I like made myself crazy and I worked really hard. And then I got through the first act. And then I was literally in the alley crying at intermission, like waiting because my solo was coming up. And I was literally like shaking and crying in the alley.
I bet you're a lot better than you think you are.
It's not about it. I can sing. I can hold notes. I don't want to do it.
Oh. Okay, so you can
I
sing.
can do it. I don't
Okay.
want to. And I did 2 of them in LA this past year.
All right.
Gotta
So I
catch
think
them.
time's ticking away
Yeah.
here. So why don't we take one last one from you?
we have a
Hop up there. Step up. This better be good though, because this is the
Better
last
be
one.
good.
Okay, say he lets you be a Pokemon, but what you have to do is sing with the Pokemon. Would you do it?
If you had to
Yes.
sing as
Yes.
a Pokemon.
Yes, that's not public.
There you go. So that's
What if
not
hiding.
public.
Pokemon had to sing into public? Isn't
Well,
that the same
no,
thing?
but you're not, but you're in the booth and it's,
It's
private.
different.
Protected.
It's
Yeah.
different. That's not public.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the great things about
I mean, I'll do it. I'll cry after,
well,
but I'll
and
do it.
I will
I'll be like,
and I'll keep recording. I'm like, I turned it off, don't worry. DVD
But you
extras.
oh my God! Honestly, I recently worked at a place where the engineer will just leave it open, and I didn't know, and I got You got to be careful when they just leave it open on you.
Joe Vegas, over at 4K.
Oh my God, he's the worst.
Yeah.
And the best.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, so
The
there's
worst
this,
and the best,
well,
because he will like edit that stuff and play it right,
Yes.
and then like he will find a time to like play it back at you in that session, and you didn't even know he recorded you saying it earlier.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, like it's the perfect punchline. That man is magic.
Yes, he is.
He's
very
magic.
quick. He's very quick. I think. All right, we got one more. We got one more, and then we got to wrap it up because I think it's 3:30.
Just a quick one.
Yeah.
So, you've talked a little bit about what you guys have done with music, but I wasn't here earlier, so maybe if you talked about it more before, but could you tell us more about what each of you have done specifically with music, maybe related to Pokemon or not related to Pokemon, related to musical theater too?
Nothing. That's my answer.
Yeah, we got that.
I'll go. I'm a classically trained singer. I've been singing since I came out of the womb, but like really singing since I was like 10. And I think that
Gross.
I know, really gross.
It reminds me of these things on the.
Yeah. I think that as a singer, because you understand your instrument, you're able to take care of it, and you know how, you know your range, you know the things that it's able to do. It gives you a toolbox of stuff to use in the booth for different characters and different ages and different dynamics, and it's definitely been extremely helpful, the fact that I'm a singer when it comes to doing animation.
Yeah, with music and Pokemon specifically, I mean, I am asked for feedback on like the theme songs and stuff when they're writing new songs, and they're like, Tom, you're the rock guy. What do you think of this? And then they generally ignore me completely. Although I have to say that for season 17, they went back to the original Gotta Catch 'Em All theme, but did this revamped, new, more rock and roll version, and they did take a lot of my notes, which I was very happy about, and really liked what they had put together. But, it is my dream that there would someday be a musical episode of Pokemon. That would be the most fun thing, like the Buffy episode that's all musical.
Once more with feeling.
Yeah, if someday there was a musical episode of Pokemon, that would be a freaking
I
dream
would
come
love
true.
that.
It would be awesome. I don't think it will ever happen, but if it did, that would be the most fun doing an episode I think ever.
Bonnie
And
could be front and
especially like the Once More with Feeling, is everybody's got to, because you're singing in character. So like Ash, he's gonna suck. He is. And having to be able to play that, because in that episode you have these characters who are not, and these actors who are not trained singers or natural singers, but because of the magical effect that's on them, they have to sing. And I like the way that they played it out because it's sort of incorporated into the performance. So I would love to do that someday. Don't know if it'll ever happen, but there you go. So that's it.
And also the Dave Mustaine thing is very funny because of the hair. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
As another person with long hair, I appreciate it.
Yeah. What? But dude, let it loose, man. Let it live.
It gets annoying sometimes. you
Shut
know?
up! It doesn't get annoying. It's awesome.
It is.
It gets
Let it
more and
live.
more incredible by the second. Seriously, dude, you didn't grow all that hair to keep it up.
Exactly.
So I'm just telling. Yeah.
Well, if
come on,
you'll pardon me, Tom Wayland just told you to shut up. So.
No. I'm
it.
saying,
I'm
look,
kidding. I'm
But
kidding.
the one thing is that
Yeah.
I have a ton of friends who, you have friends when you're a lot younger, and everyone likes the long hair. Then they start getting rid of it one by one, and I'm very proud to still have it. I'm like
Good
the
for
one
you.
last standing
Yeah,
person.
and that's one of my favorite things, that I have a job that I can, like what I'm wearing right now, this is work clothes for me. Like, I can go to work like this, and people are like, why do you dress like your children? I'm like, they dress like me. So, there you go. Thank you.
Well, if it counts, I like your shirt. And everybody, give a round of applause to the fantastic
Thanks, you guys.
Carrie, Tom, and Alyson.